Hey everyone, this is Jason Bell. Glad to be back making poker videos. I did take about a 5-year hiatus. Started back again about a year ago, and I'm ready to share some of my poker experiences with you guys. I'm playing in Houston and Las Vegas this time around. My local poker club is 101 Poker Club here in Houston, Texas, just on the west part of town in Katy. I do go to Las Vegas about once every couple months or so. And this coming July 4th, I do plan on going back to Las Vegas and participating in one of the World Series of Poker events, the Independence Day event. It's a new event this year. I think it's event number 80. It's an $800 entry fee. I can't wait to share some of those highlights with you guys as well. For now, this is my latest foray into 101 Poker Club from last Friday night. Enjoy. So in this first hand, I'm at 101 Poker Club playing 1-3, no limit hold'em. I'm on the button and I look down at King 7 of hearts. Now I started the video a little bit late here, but the under the gun raises to $15. The under the gun plus 1 calls, both the hijack and the cutoff call. So being on the button, I'm in a prime position. I could put in a 3-bet. The 3-bet sizing would probably be in the $90 to $100 range, but a King 7 feels a little bit light to throw in that 3-bet. I decided to go ahead and call here, and the small blind and the big blind also call. So we are very multi-way into a flop, which comes Queen of Hearts, 10 of Hearts, 7 of Spades. So it checks to the hijack, which then bets $35. I think about this for a little bit. I've got a lot of equity here. I've got a flush draw, I've got a backdoor straight draw. I've got lots of options I could make. I decided to go ahead and 3-bet to $100 to single out the hijack. However, it folds to the under the gun and he ends up making the call. So the hijack then thinks about it for a little bit and he ends up putting in the call as well. So the pot's brewing here. The pot's about a little over $400. Turns over the ace of spades. So nope, didn't hit my flush. But the under the gun, he checks. The hijack here grabs his chips and he's putting out a pretty decent sized bet. He bets $115. So it's a quarter of the size bet. So in relation to the pot, it's not that big of a bet. But I decide to go ahead and call here. Float the turn, still got backdoor potentials here. And the under the gun, he also calls. So we've got a really, really massive $750 pot here, 1-3 no limit. The dealer flips over the river, and that is the 7 of clubs. So the under the gun decides to check, and then the hijack checks. And what could these other players have? They probably don't have much. In 1-3, it's very unlikely that you'll see a check raise on the river. Most people are generally scared to put in that check raise. In hindsight, I probably should have put out a $50 to $100 bet, but I ended up checking. And lo and behold, my trip 7s, they hold up, and I take it down. What the under the gun ends up showing was the ace-6 of hearts. So I am very, very glad that a heart didn't come on the turn of the river. I would have been in a world of trouble. But the hijack ends up mucking, and I take it down. So nice size pot. In this hand, I am under the gun plus 1, and I'll look down at a couple of red aces. There's a $6 button straddle on, and small blind fold, the big blind calls 6, and of course, I'm going nowhere. I raise it to $25. It folds all the way around, and the big blind ends up calling the $25 eventually. Checks his cards. He's going to call. There he goes. He calls. He called the $25. Flop is coming. There goes the dealer. The flop comes. Jack of diamonds, queen of diamonds, 7 of clubs. So what does the big blind do? He checks. I decided to bet something a little bit small here. I bet $20, maybe try to induce a raise, and that's exactly what he does. So of course I'm going nowhere with my overpair and my backdoor flush potential. So of course I'm going to call the $60. Dealer puts down a turn of the 6 of diamonds. Again, the big blind checks his cards. What is he going to do? But he bets $105. Well, the backdoor nut flush potential is still there. I can't quite go anywhere yet. So I decided to go ahead and float. I go ahead and call the $105. The river comes the king of diamonds. Yes, sir. And look at the big blind, how he keeps checking his cards like that. No way he's got a straight flush. He goes and bets $195. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can I have some more, please? And what am I going to do? But of course, go all in. And so this makes the big blind think a little bit. So now that he's thinking, I'm pretty much no doubt that he does not have a straight flush. He calls, and of course I show my nut flush. He gets a little aggravated, and I take down this really, really nice sized pot. He ends up showing 10 of diamonds, 7 of spades. So he did have a 10 high flush here. So pretty nice sized pot. Okay, in this hand, I am in the middle position. I look down at ace of diamonds, 10 of spades. The under the gun bets $20. I raise to 60 to try to single him out. And it folds around to the small blind, is checking his cards. This guy was a pretty loose player. He ends up calling the $60, and the under the gun, he goes ahead and makes the call as well. These are two players that were fairly loose the entire session. The flop comes 6 of diamonds, 7 of hearts, 6 of hearts. The small blind checks, and I will go ahead and put in a nice size c-bet of approximately $55. The small blind, he goes ahead and thinks about it, but checks his cards, as you can see. And he decides to go ahead and make the call. The under the gun ends up deciding to fold, saying, nope, not for me. Dealer puts out a turn of a 7 of diamonds. So we've got 2 diamonds and we've got 2 hearts out there. So 2 flush potentials. It checks around, and the river is the 5 of hearts. So that completes the front door flush. I went ahead and checked, and the small blind keeps checking his cards, trying to find a winner. He ends up mucking them, and I go ahead and win it with my ace high. I will definitely take this one. So in this next hand, I'm in the cutoff, and I look down at king, queen of diamonds. The under the gun raises to 12. The under the gun +1 calls, and the low jack calls. This is just how it is. This is Texas poker. I decided to single someone out, and I raised to $75. However, when it gets back to the under the gun, they decide to go all in for about, $700 effective. That's a tough decision, but in all likelihood, he's got aces. Could he have jacks or tens? It's possible. But if he had pocket pair of any kind, if it's jacks or tens, it's a coin flip. Aces, I'm in some big trouble. This is one guy who hasn't played very much. He's mainly folded. So when he goes all in for $700, I don't think so. I go ahead and fold this one. Okay, this is an interesting hand. I'm in the small blind, and I look down at queen of spades, 10 of diamonds. The under the gun bets $11. There are then 4 subsequent callers. And being in the small blind, I don't recommend this, but I went ahead and called the $11 from the small blind. Usually if you're in the small, you want to definitely 3-bet. But I was changing things up. I had 3-bet quite a bit previously. So I decided to float here and call. The big blind also called. So we're very, very multi-way into a flop, which comes Queen of Diamonds, 9 of Diamonds, 6 of Hearts. I decide to check. I don't want to check into this many opponents. I don't want to bet into this many opponents. It looks overly too strong at this point. But I ended up checking, and it checks around, which is an absolute miracle. So that tells me that my queen might be pretty decent here. The turn is the 4 of Hearts, so it brings in another flush potential. I go ahead and lead out for $20 to kind of see where I'm at. And only the under the gun calls. The river is the 2 of clubs. I think I'm pretty good at this point. It is possible that he has another queen, and my kicker is just not that good. But I decide to go ahead and bet 35. Again, kind of a feeler bet. Pretty small size in relation to the pot. And he ends up calling, and I show my queen 10 offsuit, and he mucks. I take the pot. I have no idea what he could have had. Was it maybe pocket jacks and maybe pocket 8s? Who knows? Did he feel good about ace king? I mean, he certainly didn't. He was based off where his position was. It's certainly possible he had maybe something like ace jack or maybe even ace king. And he just felt really strong about it and just wanted to see if I was bluffing, and he called me down. Well, it didn't work. I had something, and I'm glad I took it. Okay, and this is the last hand of the evening, the last reportable hand of the evening. I look down at pocket queens in the cutoff. We are 6-handed at this point. The under the gun limps, middle position limps. I went ahead and raised to $15. In hindsight, I probably should have raised a little bit more, maybe $18 or $20, $21. But evidently it wasn't big enough because the button calls, the small blind calls, the big blind calls, and the under the gun calls. Great. Multi-way yet again into a flop, which comes 10-7-4 rainbow. Checks to me. I decide to bet $35, and only the under the gun calls. The turn is an offsuit jack. He checks. I bet $75. I've got overpair. I've got a straight blocker. I'm pretty sure I'm good here. That might have been too big of a bet. I guess what's done is done, but he ends up folding, and I take a decent sized pot here. Okay, that was a successful session. I played 1-3, no limit here at 101 Poker Club here in Houston, Texas. Bought in for $400 and had 3 really big pots, good hands, and had a few other hands, maybe 4 or 5 other hands where I, good sized pots, but not as massive as the 3 big ones. But it was a really good session. I bought in for $400 and cashed out for $16.08. So that's a profit of $12.08. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody.